The Galactic Academy's orbital station hung in the void like a crystal monument to universal cooperation. Inside Lecture Hall 7, 200 cadets from 47 species sat in tiered rows, their attention fixed on the holographic display at the chamber's center. Instructor Velthox, a Kryn with iridescent scales and 4 optical sensors, gestured toward the rotating blue-green planet in the projection. "Earth," he announced in the common tongue, his translation collar humming. "Home to humanity. A species that achieved interstellar capability despite originating from a death world with—" A ripple of dismissive clicks and chittering echoed through the hall. Sophie Martinez kept her expression neutral, though her jaw tightened slightly. Beside her, Robert Chen stared straight ahead, his dark eyes betraying nothing. "Gravity 1.3 times standard," Velthox continued, undeterred. "Atmospheric oxygen levels considered toxic to 60% of coalition species. Predator-to-prey ratios that should have prevented the evolution of complex civilization." "Instructor," a Zephine cadet called out, her crystalline voice tinkling like wind chimes. "Is it true humans required primitive projectile weapons to hunt? That they couldn't synthesize their own nutrients?" Scattered laughter erupted. Sophie felt Robert's hand briefly touch her forearm under the desk, a silent gesture of solidarity. "Humans are unique," Velthox said carefully. "Their evolution on a high-gravity world with extreme environmental variables produced unusual adaptations. They possess remarkable endurance, healing capabilities, and they're soft," interrupted Kresh, a hulking Dravik in the front row. His 4 arms crossed over his armored chest. "No natural weapons, no venom, no protective plating. They're fragile." Sophie leaned forward. "We're resilient," she said quietly. Kresh's head swiveled toward her, his compound eyes glittering. "What was that, human?" "I said we're resilient. There's a difference between fragile and—" The scanner alarm screamed to life. Red emergency lights flooded the hall as Velthox's communicator erupted with frantic transmissions. The holographic Earth vanished, replaced by a tactical display showing 3 hostile vessels decloaking near the station's southern quadrant. "All cadets to emergency stations!" Velthox's voice cut through the chaos. "This is not a drill. We have hostile—" The wall exploded. Not the outer hull. That would have meant instant decompression and death. Instead, a section of the interior wall erupted inward as a breaching charge detonated. Smoke and debris filled the air. Through the haze, armored figures poured into the lecture hall. Pirates, slavers, the kind who raided academy stations for hostages and ransom. The first plasma bolt screamed across the hall, striking a Quellan cadet in the shoulder. They went down shrieking, their bioluminescent blood pooling beneath them. Panic erupted. Cadets scrambled for cover, some freezing in terror, others rushing for the emergency exits. Sophie moved. Her training, the training every human received growing up on a death world where survival wasn't guaranteed, kicked in instantly. She registered the shooter, second attacker from the left, plasma carbine, already tracking toward a cluster of frozen cadets near the front row. She didn't think. She ran. Her legs pumped hard, gravity generators barely registering as she crossed 12 meters in seconds. The shooter's weapon whined, charging for another shot. Sophie saw the targeting laser sweep toward Robert, who was helping a wounded Trilix cadet toward cover. The plasma bolt discharged. Sophie's hand shot out. For a microsecond, the universe seemed to pause. 200 pairs of eyes watched as Sophie Martinez, human, soft-skinned, and weaponless, caught a superheated plasma bolt in her bare hand. The energy weapon's charge, designed to punch through light armor and vaporize organic tissue, met the thermal-resistant glove she'd yanked from her utility belt in mid-sprint. She'd deployed it one-handed, a reflexive action drilled into every human child who learned to handle dangerous equipment from age 6. But nobody else had seen the glove. All they saw was a human catching plasma. Sophie's momentum carried her forward. She slammed into the shooter, using her planet-evolved muscle density to drive them backward. Her other hand found the weapon, twisted it away with a technique that would break a human's wrist but merely dislocated the pirate's trigger finger. She spun, plasma carbine now in her hands, and fired 3 precise shots. 2 more pirates dropped. The remaining attackers hesitated, just long enough for station security to arrive. When the smoke cleared and the pirates were subdued, Sophie stood in the center of the hall, chest heaving, the plasma carbine cooling in her grip. Around her, 200 cadets stared in absolute silence. Robert reached her first. "Sophie," he breathed. "Your hand." She held up the thermal glove, now smoking and ruined, the plasma-resistant material barely intact. "Standard issue," she said simply. "Every human carries them, for emergencies." Velthox approached slowly, his optical sensors wide. "You anticipated the shot, reacted before the weapon fully charged. That's impossible without combat precognition." Sophie shook her head. "Not precognition, pattern recognition. Humans are persistence hunters, instructor. We track, we read body language. We see threats coming because on Earth, if we didn't, we died." Kresh, the Dravik who'd called humans fragile, stood among the stunned crowd. One of his 4 hands reached up to touch the armored plating on his chest, plating that would have stopped the plasma bolt Sophie had intercepted. Plating that made him feel safe. Plating that meant he'd never had to learn to move like that. "You're from a death world," someone whispered. "We all are," Robert said, stepping beside Sophie. "And that's exactly why you want us watching your back." The silence stretched. Then, slowly, a Quellan cadet began tapping their appendages together in their species' gesture of respect. Another joined, then another. Within seconds, the entire hall resonated with the cacophony of 200 different species offering their acknowledgement. Sophie handed the plasma carbine to security and pulled off the ruined glove. Her hand underneath was unharmed, protected by the equipment humans learned to carry as naturally as breathing. Velthox studied her for a long moment. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "we should spend more time on Earth lessons." Sophie smiled. "Instructor, you have no idea." The holographic Earth reappeared in the center of the hall, spinning serenely. This time nobody laughed. This time they all watched, and they all learned.